Yes, Mr. Chairman. So you'll notice that the staff reports that you received look a little bit different than they have in the past. That was in an effort and in consultation with the county attorney to kind of try to better lay out the statement of facts and the findings of fact and things like that. So, the light just might be burned out. Yes, Mr. Chairman. Everybody can hear me a little bit better? So I was speaking about the new format for the staff reports. I'm sure you've noticed that they're laid out a little bit different. It's all the same content. It's just in a manner organized a little bit different, and that was done in consultation with the county attorney's office to better lay out the findings of fact. As everybody on the board knows, there are specific criteria that you review in any special use permit application or any variance application. And the intent of the new format was to lay out those criteria specifically and to make them stand out instead of just paragraph format as findings of fact. So any findings that the board has tonight has to be related to those criteria and those findings of fact. So that's why they're laid out in the staff report as they are. If the board has any questions regarding this new format or any comments, I'd be welcome to take them. I would also mention that pretty much every other jurisdiction in the state of Montana has this exact format for the same purposes. So I just wanted to mention that as well. But I'd welcome any questions regarding kind of the new staff report outline.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I just want to add, if anybody's here for special use 23-7 and variance 23-2 pertaining to the beehive on Continental, that has been postponed and is no longer on the agenda for this evening. This is in regards to special use 23-11. The applicant is Julie Buckley, and it's at 2010 Gaylord, and the applicant is proposing to rent out, and I apologize, this should be a 4-bedroom home. They're proposing to rent out 1 bedroom of a 4-bedroom home for overnight stays and short-term rentals through online hosting program. The room for rent is located on the main floor of the current residence. Staff findings. Lodging provided by homeowners for compensation is recognized as a special use allowed in any residential district, provided that the prescribed use is in harmony with the other uses permitted in the zone and not found to be contrary to public interest. The process provided for review of physical conditions which exist at the location, the conduct and operation of the proposed use, and whether the combination of these factors will be compatible with the proposed site and surrounding area. To provide the board with information about the proposed special use, the applicant and planning staff have responded to the established 20 questions outlined herein. Here's an aerial view. Highlighted in blue here is the applicant's home that she wants to rent the room out of. The zoning district is in an R1, located here. The comprehensive plan place type is a traditional neighborhood. It's completely surrounded by other R1 traditional neighborhood homes. Location, character of the property and surrounding buildings. The property is in an R1 single-family residence zone. The home is a 4-bedroom single-family with a footprint of 1,159 square feet. One room would be rented for short-term rental. Vehicular access, circulation, and parking. Vehicle access is provided via Gaylord to the front of the residence. There's also parking in the alley to the rear of the residence. The applicant also owns this property here, so there would be some additional parking along that area. Handicap access may be a concern as there are some stairs in the front of the residence to access the home. Staff would recommend that the applicant should state this in the listing for the rental. Some views of the neighbors. The view to the north is all single-family homes. To the south, again, single-family homes. And here's an aerial of the surrounding area, which are all single-family residents. The property in question is located within an area containing mostly single-family. Lots are around 3,000 to 6,000 square feet in size. Substantial changes that have occurred in the surrounding land use since the original adoption of the ordinance. There have been no changes in the zoning ordinance. The property in question is located within the traditional neighborhood place type in the comprehensive plan. Traditional neighborhoods primarily serve the residential needs of urban areas. The primary use is generally single-family residential housing, but traditional neighborhood center also provide the opportunity for higher density housing. Traditional neighborhoods feature parks, schools, and other public uses. They are pedestrian friendly, they have minimal setbacks from the street, and provide parking that is on the street or within parking lots that are behind or underneath the buildings. Some potential nuisances: increased traffic in the neighborhood. As long as the occupancy level of the residence is in conformance with the residence building code, it should not increase traffic. Wayfinding. Staff believes that the address should be clearly posted and visible from the street and the alley on the garage to mitigate the potential for guests to mistake a neighbor's home for the rental. And noise. Staff would suggest that the owner does enforce rules through online hosting programs to regulate noise. With the applicant living in the house, this would most likely not be an issue. Conclusion: based on the above information, staff's analysis of the review criteria and any public opinion as it relates to the criteria, the board must determine if the applicant has presented evidence to the satisfaction of the board that said undue detriment will not result from the granting of a special use for the short-term rental. Section 1738-160, special or conditional use permit decision of the board, requires staff to refer the application to the board within 15 days of the receipt of the application, and all requested information the board shall within 60 days deny the application and give reason for the denial in writing to the applicant, or approve the application, and zoning officers shall issue a zoning compliance permit with conditions specified thereon. And everybody has been provided with the conditions of approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Julie Buckley, 2010 Gaylord, Butte. Well, I just realized as I was listening to this, and this is written up very well, what I did not realize that in my, and I didn't mention this to Jalen because it just came to me, actually on my block across the street from me, there is a group home, has been there for years, so apparently this is not exclusively a single-use residential neighborhood. And other than that, it's a quiet neighborhood. It's off of Cobb, so you know it's not that quiet. Correct. Yes. Thank you.
My name is Elisa Button, and I'm a resident of 2026 Gaylord. I'm actually right next door to the residence. When I'm just here today, mostly just to verify that this Airbnb that she's applying for is for inside of her home. Last year, she was doing this in her yard. So I just want to verify that it is within the residence. Yes, sir, that was my only concern, that it was held in the residence and not in the yard. The button.
Mr. Chairman, yes. Last year she was notified that she had campers and tents on the property. She was notified and she did shut that down after being notified from community enrichment.
May I speak to that
Yes.
point, please? Why not? I admit I'm guilty of just being silly and not paying attention, and I just did this last year. I registered on a website for, it's called Hip Camp, where people, and people loved it. I mean, I have a grassy lot, it's fenced in, it has lilacs, and it was very popular, and there was no problem with that property until my neighbor who just spoke let her dogs out, including 2 German Shepherds at 5:30 in the morning, who started to bark incessantly. And after my son, who was staying with me at the time, called her and asked her to, please keep the noise down, like at 5:30 or 6 in the morning, and she pretty much did not respond in a positive manner. And then we contacted the animal control over the noise, and they went to her house repeated times, a couple times. Okay. And then I was contacted by your department that I needed a business license, and I shut it down completely, and it has nothing to do with the Airbnb that I'm applying for.
We've all done silly things in our day. That doesn't seem so bad to me, but you do understand that you can't have people stay.
Oh, absolutely. I just didn't know, and that's on me.
Okay.
But this is a completely different circumstance.
It is indeed. Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
And we have the single appointment. Is there anybody else who would like to speak against this application? Hearing nobody, close the public portion of the meeting and open for board discussion. As has been true in the past,
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, personally, and I probably sound like a broken record on all of these, but I just don't have a problem with these Airbnbs. People are going through the process. A lot of other people aren't, so we got to appreciate that. This gives Ms. Button an opportunity to come and ask her questions to, you know, find out or make her feel better about what's going on here. I feel confident that the applicant is not going to have open camping in her backyard anymore, per her comments, and I feel safe that if she does, we have the ability to address it, as was proven with community enrichment earlier. I would just ask if Ms. Button, if there are problems, get a hold of someone, you know, get it addressed. But other than that, I see no issue with these Airbnbs getting approved like this. I do have personal qualms about them, but I can't bring that here. So that being said, I'm in full support. I'd like to give everyone else a chance to speak their piece if they would like, but I would be ready to make a motion at some point.
Okay, thank you, Tyler. Anybody else care to make a comment with regard to this?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I would agree with Tyler. Similar to previous Airbnb special uses we've had in the past, you know, I think it makes sense to support it. That better? That better? You can hear me? Okay. Yeah, so just echoing what Tyler said, you know, I complete support of the Airbnb special uses somewhere in the past, so I would agree and support it.
I agree with you, Tyler. On your voting ballot, I guess you should probably put in the dash 11 of,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion. We approve special use 23-11 for the Airbnb with conditions as outlined.
I'd second that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This presentation is for variance application 23-4. It's for the Burt Muni Airport. They're proposing to relocate two off-premise double-faced signs that are approximately 238 square feet in area apiece from a C2 community commercial zone into a residential district, an R1S. Both locations are on the airport property. These are the two current signs that they want to relocate further south on Harrison. Staff findings, BSBMC section 174260A, off-premise signs are prohibited in all residential districts of the BSBMC. Off-premise billboard signs may be permitted adjacent to a federal aid primary highway or interstate highway per the following regulations. If they're located in a C2, M1, M2, or RM2 zone, they may not be located within 500 feet of a residence located within a residential zoning district. They may not exceed 50 feet in height, and they may not exceed 675 square feet in sign area. When a pre-existing non-conforming structure exists, any new non-conforming use must be reviewed by the Zoning Board of Adjustments. The airport is a legal non-conforming use. Zoning is in the R1S portion of the airport. This is an aerial view of the area where they'd like to locate the signs down here right off Airport Road. A close-up of the relocation of the signs would be directly south of where they're at right now. A view to the southwest, you have the Copper King and airport property directly south. East, again, is the Copper King Convention Center, and the west view is all airport property. Directly south, we have some more commercial property. This is a image of the existing signs here, and then they would relocate them to the south, still on airport property. Again, the existing signs. A variance must not be contrary to the public interest. Directly south of the airport are some commercial structures which include a gas station, cemetery, storage, restaurant, and car dealership. West is all community commercial, which includes the hotel convention center and a bowling alley. Directly to the north is the Holy Cross Cemetery, car dealership, Walmart, Murdoch's, and more airport property. A variance must not be contrary to the public interest. Relocation of two signs on the airport property into an R1S suburban residential zone. The area is surrounded by commercial businesses, more than 500 feet in all directions of any residential homes, and there is no illuminated lighting on the signs. Staff does believe that due to the absence of nearby residents and the nature of the surrounding land uses as predominantly commercial, the relocation of these signs from one portion of the airport property to another would not be contrary to public interest. The board may consider imposing C2 zoning district sign regulations as a condition of approval. These are standard considerations for commercial signage. They may be discussed with the applicant. Literal enforcement of the zoning ordinance must result in unnecessary hardship owing to conditions unique to the property. Facts of hardship: the current signs are located on Butte-Silver Airport property in the C2 zone. The majority of the airport property is zoned R1S, and the airport itself is considered a legal non-conforming use. The commercial industrial nature of the airport business in the residential zoning district may represent a hardship when enforced, literally limiting activity and potential of the airport. The airport was established as a commercial use at this location prior to the adoption of zoning ordinance. Therefore, it is considered to be a legal nonconforming use. The airport being a pre-existing legal nonconforming use in the R1S zone may represent a hardship. The spirit of the zoning ordinance must be observed and substantial justice done. While the intent of the zoning ordinance is to restrict commercial development in residentially zoned area, Section 174850 states that if no structural alterations are made, any nonconforming use of a structure or structure and premises may be changed to another nonconforming use, provided that the Board of Adjustments, either by general rule or by making findings in the specific case, finds that the proposed use is equally appropriate or more appropriate to the district than the existing nonconforming use. In appropriate conditions and with safeguards in accord with the provisions of the ordinance codified in this title, literal interpretation of the provisions of this chapter would not deprive applicants of rights commonly enjoyed by other tracts in the same district, as the Butte-Muni Airport is a legal nonconforming use of land in the R1S zoning district. Given the legal nonconforming nature of subject property, approving the variance request should not be granting special privilege denied to others in the same zoning district. These circumstances are not comparable to a typical R1S zoned area. Conclusions and recommendations. Based on the above discussion, the request for a variance to locate 2 signs onto the property of a commercial use in a residential zone whose construction predates the adoption of the zoning ordinance is appropriate. Criteria that was met is all 3. Recommendation from the staff to approve the variance application based on written findings of fact as described in the staff report, with conditions of approval to apply C2 sign regulations to the proposal. Alternatives would be to deny the application based on findings of compliance with the criteria, continue public hearings on the application with specific direction to staff or the applicant to supply additional information or to address specific items. Thank you.
Thank you, Joella. Do any board members have any questions of the staff with regard to this?
I guess just one quick one. Has there been any opposition at the planning department to this? Nothing. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Schaefer, we have not received any
Okay.
comment.
Thank you, Dylan. Mr. Pipinich.
Can you hear me? My name is Rick Ryan. I'm the assistant manager at the Butte-Muni Airport at 101 Airport Road here in Butte.
Very good. Do you have anything you want to add to the staff report with regard to this?
Well, you're probably all amazed as we were to find out that the airport is zoned as a residential area on that. So we've been informed by Dylan and that process is going to be taken on and changed in the review of the zoning ordinances and stuff. Just to clarify on this, these billboards were part of a property that the Butte-Muni Airport owned, which was located directly north of the Butte Auto Center between there and Lescavar's lot. We sold that property approximately a year ago to a real estate developer, and he did not want to renew those leases with Lamar Companies on those signs. So he asked that they be removed, and Lamar Companies approached us to relocate those signs down onto the airport property. So that's kind of how this all started. So.
All right. Thank you, sir. Any board members have any questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ryan.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I see no issue with this. The public doesn't seem to have any issue with this. crazy that the airport could be zoned residential after the airport was already there, but we can't fix everything, so we'll work on that in the future, but I have no problem with this, and I'd be willing to make a motion for approval, unless someone else needed to say something. Good? Okay, I'm gonna make a motion then. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I make a motion, we approve variance 23 dash, or no, we're variance 23-4, right? Okay. 23-4, with that one condition as outlined for the C2 conditions.
I'd second it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This report is for variance 23-5, which is a proposal to construct a 3-unit dwelling on 2 adjacent lots, which together measure 74 feet by 100 feet, 7,400 feet, varying from the minimum required lot area and lot width for a 3-unit dwelling in this zoning district, which is the R3, which is a multifamily zone. In this zone, for a 3-family unit, 9,000 square feet of lot area are required and 80 feet of frontage are required. The proposal is for 74,000 square feet and 74 feet of lot width. It's right at the corner of Jackson and Platinum, south of the hospital. And it's in an R3 zoning district. Just to the west is an R2 zoning district. And here's a site plan of the proposed 3-plex. So it would be 2 units facing Jackson and 1 facing the alley. Some images of the lot looking east, looking northeast, looking southeast, and this is looking directly south at the lot. You can see it's sloped down to the east side. The Montana Code Annotated and the Butte-Silver Municipal Code grants powers to the Board of Adjustment to grant variances in instances where review criteria are met. There are 3 of those. Joella just talked about them, and this report will talk about them, and the next few will also. So I probably won't read this slide again in the future, but there's a little bit of background. The first criteria is will not be contrary to public interest. The proposal is short 1,600 square feet of lot area and 6 lineal feet of lot width. This is almost 18% reduction in area and 7.5% reduction in width. The lot is more closely sized for a duplex, which would require 7,500 and 75 feet of lot width, but it still falls just short. The addition of a third family on a two-family size lot could pose adverse density impacts to the neighborhood. The setbacks on the site plan of the R3 zone are met, 20 in the front, 8 on the sides, and 10 in the rear. 5 on the sides, I'm sorry. The building would appear to be a duplex from Jackson Street from the front, with a third unit facing the rear and access from the rear in the alley. There's off-street parking proposed, or on off-street parking, yes, for a garage and a driveway for each unit. So based on these circumstances, there are certain conditions related to the variance request that could mitigate potential impacts of a third family in terms of density addition to the neighborhood. Unnecessary hardship is the second criteria. The provisions of the zoning ordinance don't constitute unnecessary hardship because they're applied to all property owners in the zoning district. This is a standard size vacant parcel of land. The property does not prevent the privilege of developing permitted uses within the parameters of the R3 zoning district. Single family and two family homes are permitted in the R3. Spirit of the zoning ordinance observed, the lot width and lot frontage requirements of the R3 are applied to all property owners in the zone and may only be overridden when conditions unique to a property prohibit the same reasonable use of that property as others in the zone. By not enforcing consistent implementation of the regulations can undermine the long-term benefits of zoning and community development, as well as represent unfair treatment of property owners in any given district. When we evaluate substantial justice, there are two questions that make it more simple to understand what substantial justice means. The first is, would literal interpretation of the provisions of the chapter deprive the applicants of rights commonly enjoyed by others in the same district? In this case, no. There are permitted uses which would allow for reasonable use of private property, and any other property owner in the zone with the same or similar sized vacant lot would face the same regulations. Would approving the variance request grant the applicants any special privilege that is denied by the chapter to other land in the same zoning district? What's important to mention here is that we do get requests for units, extra units on lots that are undersized for that occupancy, and we very often have to have people adjust their applications or are simply denied. Therefore, granting this variance request would be offering special privilege to one property owner, which is commonly denied in the same district. Criteria met, 1 of 3. Staff's recommendation is to deny the variance based on the written findings of fact as described in the staff report, and there are some other alternatives listed up there for the board as well. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kurt Doffinger. I live at 2907 Teal Street here in Butte, Montana. Thank you, Mr. Chair, board members. I appreciate the opportunity to visit with you today and share our vision for this particular piece of property. Currently, we're developing the duplexes just north of this particular property, and our status on that is within the next probably 35 to 40 days, we will be finishing that project, and we will be looking for another project to start. We're hoping with a variance that we will be able to do that. Unlike the current project that we're working on, those lots were 60 by 100, and they presented some challenges as far as setbacks. This lot is much larger, so we will not have an issue with setbacks on the front or the rear or for the sides. The downside of this particular lot is it does have a severe slope. It does slope from front to back in that 100-some feet, over 20 feet of slope. So with that, you can see by the pictures, or maybe not, but there's a shortage of dirt to build on as well. But the benefit from that is when we do place that particular design on this particular lot, it creates a space underneath that is totally unused and would be absolutely perfect for another living unit. And that tenant would be able to access this particular property from the alley. There's 30 feet there. Typical in that neighborhood, many of the residents have their garages in the back, but most of them don't even have the 10-foot. So it's pretty typical for the parking to be in the rear. In this particular neighborhood, just 4 properties down, there is a fourplex on a 3,000 square foot lot. And of course, that's pretty typical. If you look on Jackson, Idaho Street, there's multiple multifamily units that are on 3,000, 4,000 square foot lots. So they're, again, pretty typical for the neighborhood itself. The core of Uptown Butte has had single-family and multifamily properties side by side existing for over 100 years. I was reading today in the new urban planning master plan, and I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget it, so I will quote that. In March of 2022, the Planning Board addressed the Uptown Master Plan. One of their conclusions was to respect Butte-Silver's heritage while embracing change, to rewrite zoning codes and encourage infill and new development. The Uptown Master Plan states that there's a need for new housing, which should come from remodeling existing buildings or new construction, to establish an uptown core, which includes development, infill, new construction, all within walking distance of uptown core, improving living quality and promoting existing businesses. Several years ago, the previous owners, Angela and Sherry, I had approached them about purchasing lots. I do own the house next to it and the fourplex down the way. And of course, at that time, they were not interested in selling. They had some visions about developing on that particular lot. I understand that they did present some type of a presentation, but the building wasn't acceptable for that particular area. I will share with the committee that, of course, our building has been accepted by the HPC. It has, this craftsman style has met their approval, and we're grateful for that. Also, when we purchased this particular property, one of the first phone calls I received was from the community enrichment, and they shared with me what an eyesore this particular lot has been. Yeah, obviously, it's a safe haven for noxious weeds and the like that are about 4 foot high. Obviously, we remedied that right away. But the problem is that this particular lot is zoned R3, but because of the current zoning, there's absolutely no ability to develop on this particular property with any type of multifamily living. Really, the only choice is single family. And in 50 years, I don't see anyone that's wanted to develop there. I'm assuming that maybe with their life savings, that wouldn't be the ideal spot to build their dream home, which leaves it really the perfect fit for multifamily. I guess in conclusion, I know that I've been before the board before, and through your wisdom, I have seen you grant variances for these type of projects, and I commend that. I think that is the correct decision. I can give you multiple examples of the needs that we have for multifamily up in Uptown Butte. One of the current buildings that we have a tenant that moved here from Washington 3 years ago. It's been the only place he lived. He's semi-retired, does work as up in the geology up in Montana Tech. The other tenant who's just recently moving was Ryder. He's fresh out of college, worked up for Mortensen Construction up at the hospital. And of course, he just got transferred to another location. I asked Ryder how he liked living uptown. He was ecstatic. He said he loved it up here. All the festivals, all the activity, all the parades. He was blown away. Had no idea a place could be like that. So when his replacement was moving here to take his place, he asked where should he live. And of course, he said, you need to live uptown. And we were able to go ahead and rent that to him as well. But another important example is we have tenants through some of our properties that are doing very well, and they're looking for newer places to live. They can afford more rent. There just isn't very many choices. But but we would like to be able to provide that housing for them. But the biggest benefit is when they move out of that $700 a month apartment, that creates a vacancy for someone else who cannot afford anything but $700 a month. Just there again, reiterating the value of why Uptown Butte needs more multifamily. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I would, if you don't mind. Mr. Doffinger, per Lila's staff report, we noticed that a duplex is much, much closer to setback requirements, area requirements, whatever, what have you. Is it my understanding when you say that due to the slope of this, you're building the duplex above, it creates basically the void underneath for the third place? If this were just the duplex without the third unit underneath it, is it still the same size?
Yes.
You still build the same building, it just has a void underneath it?
Same footprint,
Okay.
identical.
I just needed to
Yeah.
confirm that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody present who would care to support this application? Is there anybody present that is opposed to this application? Okay, hearing nobody, I'll close the public portion of the meeting and open it for board discussion. First, I think it makes a pretty compelling argument for participation in the meeting.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, I think and members of the board too, I think the argument is valid. We're not here to decide our housing needs and stuff. That is a different part of our local government. We all understand there is a need for that, though. That being said, my thought is this is really, really, really close to a duplex size house, or meeting the duplex area requirements, frontage requirements, all of that. It is, in theory, kind of a duplex with just making the most use of the space, which I can totally get behind. Another thing I want to say is Mr. Doffinger has been here before. He has asked for special uses, variances, what have you. I think for the most part we've granted most, if not all of those. But I want to reiterate too on that, when I think a few projects ago, there were some neighbors that were concerned about a mess that was left, some sidewalks that were dirty. He promised to address those. The neighbors did say he addressed those very timely and has been a great neighbor during the construction process. On a little more personal note, I drive by this empty lot every day on my way home from the gym on Montana Street. I literally drove by it last week and go, I don't know how someone would do something on that land. Like, it just looks like a nightmare. Kind of a coincidence that it just kind of popped up here in front of us recently. But I know we're not meeting the conditions or the criterias. And we should not be varying from that if, as a board, as much as possible. I get that. I just am having trouble seeing the downside of this, and we don't have any opposition. I guess I'm just in support of it, and that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Is anybody else who would care to make any comments with regard to this matter?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I guess a couple things. You know, I definitely see where Tyler's coming from a square footage, footprint of the house. I guess my concern is there's a lot of lots in Butte that are like this, uptown and slope lots, and it could become commonplace that we're approving, similar proposals, layouts. I don't know how that would affect uptown parking, number of people that are occupying these units. I guess personally, while I like the proposal, I guess I just kind of worry about the precedent myself.
Okay, is there anybody, Stephen or Tyler, any comments with regard to this?
Mr. Chairman, I understand the precedence argument. I get that. I guess my thought is this, I don't know what, I know we are setting a precedence where we can squeeze 3 units onto a lot that only should have 2, but the footprint of this building does not change. The only real thing that's changed is we are probably going to have an extra tenant in this building that does bring up traffic concerns. I personally don't prefer to go in and out of anything from an alley, but that's not my thing, not my problem, I guess. I guess where I'm okay with this is that it doesn't change. It's not changing the footprint of the building. The building is still going to be the same duplex-looking building that it would be regardless. I find it hard to believe as a board if Mr. Doffinger came in front of us with just the duplex variance that just needs a couple feet on each side. We would still need the variance there. We're very, very close, but you'd still need it. But I would just have a hard time thinking we would turn that down as a board. So the natural extension of that to me, and I'm not speaking for anyone else, is that same thing would probably be fine if it were just a duplex. I just don't see the problem with using some dead space underneath it to keep it, to put 1 extra unit in there. If it helps Mr. Doffinger as a businessman get it off the ground, great, that's here nor there, but the duplex, it's still gonna look like a duplex. It's just has an extra thing underneath it for someone to live in, and I'm okay with that, I guess. And I'm only speaking for myself, so thank you. Okay, well, I guess when we get to a point of making a motion here. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion. We approve variance 23-5.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wrote 3401 up here, but it should be I wrote 2401 on the agenda. It should be 3401. Eastlake. The proposal here is to construct a 21-foot, 8-inch tall detached garage in an R1 or a single-family home zone. The maximum height of detached accessory structures allowed in the zone is 16 feet. The location is at 3401 East Lake Drive, sort of between the old Hawthorne School and Big Sky Senior Living. The zoning is in the R1. To the southeast, there's some R3. Here's the site plan. The existing house is here, and there is an existing garage. The proposed new garage would be in the same location, just larger. So here's the property. Here's that garage facing East Lake and the house central on the property. There's that garage, quite small right now. There it is again under Joella's finger. And here's the front of the property, so looking north. These are the same staff findings as before, reciting what the state law and local law, the powers that those codes give to the zoning board to grant variances. The first criteria being will not be contrary to public interest. The proposal represents over 25% exceedance of the maximum height limit permitted in the zone for detached garages. I'll note that attached garages can be up to 35 feet tall, which is the same height as a house. The height limit's designed to ensure uniformity of development and appearances in R1 neighborhoods, as well as limit the size of non-residential structures in these neighborhoods, which are intended primarily for single-family residences. The subject property and surrounding neighborhood are characterized by low-density single-family residential. Most nearby properties contain an attached or detached garage, none of which are oversized. The proposal could alter the character of the neighborhood as protected by the zoning ordinance and could pose nuisance to surrounding properties. Unnecessary hardship. There appear to be no conditions unique to the property which would make complying with the requirements or having a 16-foot tall garage unfairly difficult. The R1 zone intends to allow property owners to have a single-family home and accessory outbuildings, which could include but isn't limited to a shed, a detached garage, an attached garage. There's only one detached private garage allowed in the zone, but there's no limit to how large it can be, just how tall it can be. There is a 35% lot coverage maximum, so you can only cover 35% of your lot with buildings. With the existing house and garage, only 15% is occupied, so there is space for an additional 20% of lot coverage, just not building height. Spirit of the zoning ordinance observed. The proposed variance would not maintain the spirit of the zoning ordinance, as the request is over 25% of the maximum height limits. This would contradict the intent of the ordinance to limit the size of detached accessory structures. The height maximum is applied to all property owners in the R1 district and can only be overridden when conditions unique to a property prohibit the same reasonable use of that property, and there are few circumstances that would make complying with the height limitations unfair. These same substantial justice questions. In this case, adhering to the height regulations doesn't limit reasonable use of the property or prevent the applicant from constructing a detached garage or additional storage space, just that height. There are no unique conditions related to the property which make compliance with the regulations unfairly difficult. And as I mentioned on the last application, building height limits are enforced continually when we review building permits. We review building permits both with the building department and the planning and zoning department at the same time, and we often have to have people modify their applications to shorten garages or deny applications for this very similar request. Conclusions and recommendations. None of the three criteria are met. We recommend that the variance is denied based on written findings of fact as described in the staff report, and alternatives are provided below.
Thank you, Lana. Do any of the board members have any questions of the staff at this time?
I just have one clarification. Ms. Osborne, on one of your slides, there was like a picture of like a big house barn looking garage. Is that representative of what we're looking at tonight?
Mr.
Or
Chairman,
was that just like a part of the slide?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Schaefer, that's the proposed garage that the applicant included in their application.
Oh, okay, great, thank you.
Any other questions? Yeah, I'll ask the applicant to come forward and identify yourself, giving your name and address, and make your case in support of your application.
My name is Clint McGee, and I live at 3401 East Lake. And the reason I want to build a Gramble garage is because my home was built in 1909. The garage was built in 1952, and it's very small. And so what I have is I'm renting 3 storage sheds as of now because I put on a big Christmas display at Christmas, and I also do a big Halloween display, and that's taking 2 out of my 3 storage sheds. So with a Gramble garage, I'd have enough space to be able to store my stuff right on property. I'm getting older, and so it's going to be more convenient for me to do that. And what I wanted to tell the board as well is I know you have a 16-foot restriction, but I guess the questions I have is why. That's number one, why? Not that anyone has to answer that, but I'm just asking the question, why 16 feet when a person can actually build 2 stories on their home or their garage? I would think maybe the starting basis for a building should be 2 stories, just so someone could either use it for storage or use it for a rental or something like that in a property. I wanted to, if I may, is pass out pictures in my neighborhood anywhere from a half a block away, a couple houses away, up to 7 blocks away, where people have 2-story garages actually built. So is it okay if I pass these out to the room? Okay. And so I know that, like I said, it's been done before in the neighborhood and around my area, the Atherton area. And the garage I'm proposing is a very nice looking garage. It's going to enhance the neighborhood as well. And so that's my request. And I would like to say as well, the last gentleman that was here, I know his thing was for 80 feet and he came to 74 feet. So we're talking 6 feet. I'm talking 5 foot 8 inches of height over the 16 foot as well. So, you know, it's going to be a little bit smaller than 6 feet, but I just think it would benefit the neighborhood. It would benefit me as well.
Kind of want to ask you one question.
Mm-hmm.
Our rule, we need 16 feet, that's the council commissioners. We have to abide by what they say.
Right.
In the occasional circumstances, we may vary that a little bit. But in general, we have to go with what the council has provided.
Mm-hmm. Right. No, and I understand that as well. Yeah, that's why I came before you folks today. Mm-hmm.
Mr. McGee, have you looked into just building a garage that is 16 feet tall?
Well, I did. The problem with that.
Why, I guess, sorry to interrupt you,
Okay.
but why do we need this one? I understand you have some storage issues and stuff, but why this size of a garage versus just a regular 16-foot garage that could be, from what I understand, very wide? We just can't be over 16 feet tall. I guess I would like to understand your reasoning for why that wouldn't work, but this would.
Well, the big reason is the yard. If you ever go by there, it's a beautiful yard. It has
I've seen
tons
it,
of
yes, it
trees.
is
I
very
mean,
nice.
it's just an oversized lot, and it's from the start. It has just beautiful trees, and I don't want to make a 4-car garage and take half of the yard away in some of the trees when I can go up and make the same storage as I would. And like I said, the reason I need the extra room on top is because some of my decorations are over 9 feet tall as well, my Christmas decorations that I put up at Christmas. And so the big reason is I'd like to go up, utilize the same space, then go sideways and take up over half of the yard is the reason. Thank you.
Is there anybody present who would care to speak in support of this application? Yes, sir, could you come forward and identify yourself, give your name and address? My name is Paul Laird. I live directly across the street from the proposed new construction. And, my address is 3430 East Lake. I'm probably the person that would be most affected by the view of the garage. And I'm in favor of it. I think it's a great looking design and I think it would work fine. And on my side of the street, I have a single story garage with a 5 and 12 pitch roof, which isn't very steep, and it's more than 16 feet tall. And we're on an intersection. There's four houses on each corner. Anyway, 2 of the other houses are more than 21 feet high already. And then as you go down the street, there's many more houses that are more than 21 feet high. So. And Mr. McGee keeps his yard absolutely immaculate. It's a beautiful grounds and everything. And he keeps his house looking that way and everything. And I think this new construction would just be a benefit to the looks of the neighborhood myself. And that's it. Appreciate your comments. All right. Is there anybody else who would care to speak in support of this application? Yes, sir, could you come forward? As you probably know by now, you can identify yourself.
Yep, can you hear me? Yes. Yeah, Kurt Burgess, and I live at 3303 East Lake, which is that one right over to the left if you're looking at it this way. And I'm in support of it because, yeah, I concur with what Paul Laird says. In fact, Clint gives me a hard time about not mowing my lawn enough. And but yeah, I bought that house primarily for an investment. I mean, I do live there. And my mother lives to his north, and she's not here tonight, but I can speak for her. I don't know if that means anything here, but she's in support of it as well. Yeah, I mean, the place is immaculate. Yeah, it'd be great to have that for him because of what he stated for his needs. And I did notice a home. I'm sorry if I'm not sure if the garage is attached or not, but it's a brand new garage, beautiful garage. I think it's at Sheridan and Phillips, right on Sheridan after you go over the overpass north, and it's to the right. So, yeah, I mean, hopefully we can be consistent here and let Clint know if he can't have it, he can't have it for the following reasons, and he can take appropriate steps. But yeah, I think most of the neighbors support it. And by the way, I do have a garage. It's attached, but it's 2 stories. And that's it. Thank you.
Is there anybody else who would care to speak in support of this application? Is there anybody present who would care to speak against the application? Hearing nobody, I'll close the portion of the meeting and open it for board discussion. This is a tough one.
Well, getting back to Garrett's point of precedence, I think we see the problem. I don't know what's going on in that neighborhood, why everyone has the biggest garages in Butte. They do. I'm jealous. I don't like it at all. I don't. But Mr. McGee seemed to impress his neighbors to the point that they don't have a problem with it, and nobody else seems to. That's what makes this very difficult, and I'm not sure I have anything else to say right now. This is hard because a lot of support, nothing against it, but we see the precedence problem. But we also see the reverse of it where we could potentially tell him he can't build this garage, but somehow, some way, 10 other people in this neighborhood have built something similar. So I think you could have legal issues there too. That's all I have right now. I don't know what else to say.
Okay, thank you, Kevin.
we get the not in my backyard crowd of, yeah, I'm cool if I don't have to look at it. When Mr. Laird came to the thing, I wondered if he maybe just didn't hear us right when we were asking for support or opposition, because I live right across and I'm going to be affected by it, and I have no problem with it. We have issues here. I don't know. I need to hear what other people have to say. I got to hear something.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, yeah, I can definitely appreciate the support for this project, but I guess where I'm struggling is, there are height limitations, and the very next one that comes through, there might be a lot of opposition in a neighborhood to that sort of thing, and I don't think it would be right to approve one just based on positive public opinion, because the next one, it might all be negative. I personally just don't want to be swayed by public opinion because it can be positive or negative. So I guess I'm just kind of going back to the maximum height requirements. I guess that's all I have.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, to me, it seems just a step too far for height. I mean, Mr. McGee had a point that, yeah, we did just kind of give approval to something that was just moving 5 feet, but that was 5 feet over 80 feet. This is 5 feet of 16 feet, which is, I'm not good at math, but I think roughly a third, 30-something%. So it is a little more egregious in my opinion. I think Garrett has a absolutely perfect point is, yeah, the neighbors have no problem with the neighbors, don't mind seeing it, but we do just start a slippery slope here where how can Mr. McGee do it and I can't? How can he do it and I can't? But we're seeing that tonight. Every argument we have heard tonight from people coming forward has been, well, there's a 20-foot there and a 19-foot there, and we see where the precedence becomes a big problem because it's, why can't I? Because he did. And I think this city in particular has a long history of not enforcing a lot of stuff, and this is how we get to this situation. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we can just look the other way because those before us have not enforced our ordinances or approved things that maybe were similar. And that's a tough slope to go down. I don't know if no one else has anything to say, I'm ready to make a motion in an effort to get this to a vote.
Okay, hold on just a second. Yes, ma'am, would you like to say something?
Yes.
If you are going to say something, you have to come forward and identify yourself with your name and address. I'll permit that over the course of this time.
This.
If everybody in Butte would take care of their property just this much, when Clint has taken care of this property and he has made our neighborhood look so much nicer. He's out there no matter what the weather is. Anybody here can drive past Clint's house in the wintertime. He will be out there shoveling. In the summertime, he'll be out there in the rain mowing his lawn. He has taken such great care of this home. And if all of us here did that, it would be a beautiful Butte. Because his place, and I'm sure you've noticed if you've gone down there, it's immaculate. Yes, okay, thank you.
This is hard. This is miserable. This is why I hate this job. And it's not a job. We're volunteers, guys. But I wish we were all here to vote tonight on the merits of Mr. McGee and how great he keeps his property, because I wish he was my neighbor too. I have terrible neighbors that don't mow their weeds, that don't mow their lawn, that don't do anything, don't shovel their walks, no matter what. It's painful, it's hard. I have little to no support from community enrichment. You know, when I have problems, I get it. I would love to live next to Mr. McGee. I might even move down there if a house comes for sale, because I need one of those garages. But the Lairds have something that we can work out. I get it. This sucks. It's not personal. I just don't think we can. This is just a bridge too far for what we need to do as a board in the future. We have got to hold some level of this, and again, I'm a broken record, but this is a precedence that is just too far. And I know this garage is going to be nice. I know it's going to probably fit perfectly next to the 10 other ones next to it. I get it. But I just, as a member of this board, I can't support it because of what we have a similar case next. How do we tell, what if something pops up there that we got to tell them no? And their argument is, well, why is he yes? And it's the exact same thing. Thank you. We just need to remind the public too, if we do say no, we're not saying no as a personal thing, as a crap on Mr. McGee thing. It's nothing like that. It's not that we don't take the Laird's testimony seriously. It's not that we don't take Mr. Burgess's testimony seriously. We do. We get it. We can't. I just don't see how we can move forward. But that being said, I'm sorry. I'm going to make a motion. We approve this variance so we can get it to a vote and get either move on with his project or have some sort of closure. My personal thoughts is I would like to see something a little shorter. I could maybe even give you a few extra feet on a good day, but I just can't go with an extra 5+ feet. I just can't personally. That's my vote. That's my opinion. I will make a motion. We approve variance 23 dash, I don't even know what it is. 6. Thank you. I made a motion to approve, so just even vote against it. Just leave it, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This proposal is to construct a 21-foot tall garage in an R2, a two-family residential zone, but it has the same height maximum of detached accessory structures as the R1 of 16 feet. It's located at 1125 Motorview Road. They're on the corner of Motorview and Wyoming. The zoning is R2. Farther to the west, there's an R4S zoning district, and farther to the east, there's an R4 zoning district. These are manufactured home zones, so they allow single-family homes and manufactured homes. Here's the site plan. There's an existing house with an attached garage to the north, and the proposed garage would be detached, which is allowed farther to the north. This star represents about where the proposed garage would be. There's a driveway off of South Wyoming here. Here's the front of the house. Here is looking north. South Wyoming's a dead end here, so we have a few pictures back there, but it slopes down as you head farther north. This is that driveway off of Wyoming, so this picture is from Wyoming Street looking east. I believe the garage would be right around here. This is looking at the attached garage that's existing from Wyoming Street. The same staff findings that describe the powers of the Board of Adjustment to grant variances when the review criteria are met. The first being will not be contrary to public interest. So this is very similar to the last presentation. The proposal is over 25% exceedance of that 16-foot height maximum. It's designed to ensure uniformity of development and appearances in R2 neighborhoods, as well as limit the size of non-residential structures in neighborhoods intended primarily for single-family and two-family residences. So when a garage is attached, because it's attached to the house, it can be up to 35 feet, which is the height maximum for a house. When they're detached, they're limited because those are non-residential structures. The subject property and surrounding neighborhood are characterized by low-density, single-family residential development. And like the previous proposal, it could alter the character of the neighborhood, which is protected by the zoning ordinance and could pose a nuisance to surrounding properties. There appear to be no conditions unique to the property which would make complying with the requirements of the zone unfairly difficult. A condition which may qualify here would be if a lot was sloped up from the road, probably not sloped down from the road. The R2 zone, like the R1, intends to allow property owners to have a single or a two-family home with accessory outbuildings. So a shed, a detached garage, an attached garage, you could have all three. Only one detached private garage is allowed per dwelling unit. So if you have a duplex, you could have 2 detached garages. There's no limit to the square footage, but there is a 35% lot coverage maximum. Only 8.6% of this lot is currently occupied. The proposed variance would not maintain the spirit of the ordinance as the requested, it is over 25% exceedance of the 16-foot height maximum. It's applied to all property owners in the R2 and may only be overridden when conditions unique to a property prohibit the same reasonable use as others in the zone. In this case, adhering to the height regs do not limit reasonable use of property and would not prevent the applicant from constructing a detached garage or additional storage space on the property, would just limit the height of any new detached structure. There are no unique conditions related to the property which make compliance with the regulations unfairly difficult. And like the others, we do have common requests or applications or site plans for garages, and when we review these permits, people often have to make adjustments or have their applications denied and they decide not to come forward. Therefore, granting this variance request would offer special privilege to one property owner which is denied to others in the same district. Same conclusions as the previous proposal. None of the 3 criteria are met, and the staff recommends that the variance application is denied based on the written findings of fact as described in the staff report.
My name is Michael Hall. I live at 1125 Motorview Road, retired veteran, retired state employee. I turned in 12 packages that had other pictures. I turned them in downstairs. I don't know if they were brought up here for the panel to look at. Are they here? Okay. Yeah. Okay. And the reason why I asked is because of the fact that I think my timing might be a little bit wrong, you know, in following. And I respect what everything has been said tonight, but the reason for my variance is to provide indoor storage for the protection from the weather, theft, and vandalism of a medium-sized motorhome, which she had pictured earlier. Okay, there you go. One of the pictures that I have provided that's in your packet, my immediate neighbor built a pole barn, and it's 19 and a half feet, but he can't put his trailer in it. It hits the air conditioning. So it sits outside. I'm trying to basically improve my aesthetic neighborhood area and the value of the property, because I do have 2 roads that I pay current taxes on. Because of the area is multi-tiered, when I say multi-tiered, it's not so much at the slope of the property, which, as you can see right here, I had an excavation permit, and I brought in thousands of dollars to level that pad out, okay? The multi-tier I'm talking about is that as we go up Motorview Row, or Motorview, each level of homes are higher than the other, okay? So there's no obstruction as far as my neighbors. I have verbal support from my neighbors. In fact, the gentleman that is part of my subdivision, unfortunately, I didn't have the time, the date and time to come for them to show up, so they're not here for it or proposing, other than I have their verbal confirmation to support it. My actual residence, which is in this packet as well, we talk about heritage and so forth. This home here was moved from Montana Tech. One of the neighbors that supports my deal has 2 homes from the Columbia Gardens that has been attached together. I have a Meterville home. So I'm trying to preserve the heritage as well, and asking for the 5-foot variance. And because of some of the existing homes, as that one picture she showed, which is horrible to see, that one right there, my rain gutter from the heavy snow that we had obviously snapped the lag bolts off of it. So this residence from the ground level up from the bottom of the existing garage is 32 feet. I've asked for the 5-foot variance to build this garage so that I can put that motorhome in and keep from vandalism. There's no fencing around most of these homes up there, and keep the aesthetics and the view of the property looking great, okay? So, like I said, I'm part of the Gull Manor subdivision built on a multi-tiered slope area, unlike most properties located within Butte locations. And I said that Montana, Columbia Gardens, Meterville, in that regard. But based on what I've heard tonight, I would even be open to a compromise, okay? But I'm asking for 5 feet so I don't tear the motorhome apart, trying to put it in or put it under the, and actually there was another actual picture of the proposed building, but I don't see that up there either on the slide. You should have a picture like so in your packet, okay, and that would allow me to put the motorhome underneath this and keep the snow off the top of it and without ripping it apart, okay? But see, this right here is a 16-foot right here. That would be it, and where that's why the difference of the 5 feet's asked so that I can use 16 foot going down to 14, so I can pull that motorhome in and preserve it and keep and reduce the outdoor storage. Some of the other pictures that's in that packet, if you look at, there is property that's pretty shabby looking in, you know, as you go down the hill. I mean, you would actually think that they live in a junkyard in that area. And those are all within 1 block difference. They're within the R2 zone. So if you take a moment to look at the packet that I turned in before you make a decision, I would greatly appreciate that. Because I'm just trying to take and you know, improve my property and keep it, you know, and the things that I own as well. So, and my wife as well. So, you know, we're both retired veterans, so we're just trying to maintain it. But hopefully you take a look at that is the proposed new garage right there. Mm-hmm.
I hate awkward silence. I hate this. This is so terrible. I don't think we can do this. We are just gonna have a real big problem of everyone wanting to build a 21-foot tall garage. And maybe the best way to do this, since everyone in this town seems to already have one or want one, is maybe we need to get some council of commissioner people to change this, because neighbors don't seem to have a problem with it, people want it, and everyone else seems to have it. So that being said, maybe you guys need to get with your commissioners and get this ordinance changed, because no one seems to have a problem with this. Maybe that's where we need to go. I just think we start allowing this, we're basically legislating from a volunteer committee, a volunteer board, because the Council of Commissioners has told us 16 feet is the max. We, as a quasi-judicial board, are able to vary from that somewhat. Just personally, to me, this is a bit too far of a variance, as stated before, basically for all the reasons stated before. And again, it's not personal. This is an ordinance issue. We are just not the proper people to, I know we have the power to let you do this. We just shouldn't have that power right now like that. This is something that needs to get changed in our ordinance, not from a volunteer board of adjustments, zoning board of adjustments. So that being said, I don't know, I don't want to interrupt anyone, but if I would like to make a motion, we approve variance 2-3. Someone, please tell me the number. Okay, it's 237.
I'll second it if you need that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our final presentation is for variance 23-8 at 203 Vista Court. The proposal is to construct a 3,168 square foot garage and varying from the setback requirement. So within 5 feet of the west side property line on the south portion, as you can see over here, this highlighted purple is that setback, and within 12 feet on the north side, when the minimum required setback is 15 feet in the R1S zone, which is a single-family suburban residential. Like I said, it's at Vista Court at the end of the cul-de-sac there. Oops. It's in the R1S zoning district, which is single-family suburban residential. The lot size, maybe we'll fix that. We got it. We're investigating.
An open window there, and it's blown off the stuff from county superintendent of schools down the hall.
Nope.
He was figuring it out now. So, I'm sorry.
No worries.
I don't want the superintendent
To come back to a carpet of papers. So here's the site plan with some other characteristics of the property. There's an electrical service running this way. The septic and drain field is over here. There is a natural drainage on the east side of the property, a gas service line, and then the well is in the front to the south of the house. And you'll note here that there is an existing garage, and then the proposal is to relocate that existing garage to the north of another the existing garage will be moved north and an addition built onto it, 54 by 48. Here's that site plan. So new construction, 4 feet between the house and the garage, relocating the garage over here. We have some great drone footage for this lot. So here's the existing garage, and then it would be moved north, and another larger bit would be built south of it. Altogether, it would be that 3,000 some square feet. And I believe the fence is the property line. Yeah. So here's an image of the front of the house currently with the detached garage over here. And then here's a project simulation, so what it would look like with the new construction. Here's the backyard currently looking east to west, sorry. So the intent of the R1S zoning district, those suburban zoning districts, is to promote and protect widespread, sparsely settled single-family development. So minimum lot sizes in that zoning district are larger, setbacks are larger, but there's no limit to the number of detached structures. There's no limit, there's no 16-foot height limit. It can be 35 feet. So the intent of those larger setback requirements is to preserve and promote the distance, low-density development patterns in the neighborhood and protect neighboring property owners. When the setbacks are met, there would be not less than 30 feet between any two structures of separate ownership on separate lots. Were a variance to this side yard setback requirement be granted, any property owner directly to the west would not be guaranteed that minimum 30 feet of separation. And construction without uniform setbacks in a suburban neighborhood which exhibits distinct and intentional separation could adversely aesthetically impact the character of the neighborhood. Unnecessary hardship. So there is a natural drainage to the east side of the property, east side of the house, which would pose a hardship for building on that side if there were no other area on the parcel to build on. That's not the case in the proposal, as there's available building space elsewhere on the property, and there is an existing garage that has space to expand. The subject lot is about a half of a tenth an acre, short of 1 full acre. An acre is the minimum standard lot size in the zoning district. Neither of these characteristics would constitute a hardship in this case, as they don't preclude the property owners from exercising the same permissions of the zone that all other property owners have. And the property currently has a single-family home, an attached garage, and a detached garage. There's no limit to the number or size of detached structures in the R1S or lot coverage, but there are those setback requirements. The proposed variance would not maintain the spirit of the ordinance, as the 10-foot reduction would infringe on protections of neighboring property owners and could detract from the preservation and promotion of distanced, low-density suburban character. The minimum setback requirements are applied to all property owners in the district and may only be overridden when conditions unique to a property prohibit the same reasonable use of that property as others in the zone. The property already exercises the intended permissions of the R1S, and there is space still to expand. Therefore, literal interpretation of the zone doesn't deprive the applicants of rights commonly enjoyed by others in the same zoning district. There are no unique conditions related to the property which make compliance unfairly difficult. Building setbacks are enforced, probably one of our main pieces of a site plan that we have to have people amend when they submit a site plan, would be setbacks. And on a weekly, maybe even daily basis, people do that. Therefore, granting this variance request would be offering special privilege to one property owner, which is denied to others in the same district. These conclusions are the same as the previous two, that the criteria are not met, and staff recommends denial of the application based on the findings of fact described in the report.
I have one question, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Osborne, members of the staff. You guys stated in the staff report, and the applicant stated that the subject lot is 55 hundredths of an acre short of the 1 acre minimum lot size. As 1.000 acres considered minimum, or is there an acceptable deviation from that 1 acre minimum?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Craig, the minimum lot size in the R1S is 1 acre. That doesn't necessarily mean that you know, he's out of compliance or anything like that. Those minimum lot sizes are for when you're creating lots in that zoning district. But yeah, so if you're you know 0.05 acres short of 1 acre, you're considered a non-conforming lot. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. We're Gina and Frank Fleming, 203 Vista Court. And obviously we are opposed to the conclusions and recommendations of the board, but we would like to thank the chairman and the board for hearing our request. I'd just like to give you some background. So we are proposing, as you saw, a 50 by 48 foot garage on the west side of our property. The existing garage will be moved back to create an L-shape configuration, and this configuration will also provide us a nice space to make a patio that will be protected from the wind. And we will have landscaping around the back side of the garage and the front portion of the garage, so it looks nice. So the proposed placement of the garage will be within 5 feet of the property line on the southernmost and within 12 feet on the northernmost end. And we'll get into that later, but our lot is crooked, which poses kind of a problem. So you may be wondering why we need such a large garage. Frank has always restored classic cars. It's his passion and his hobby, and I really enjoy helping him with it as well. We have 6 classic cars right now in various stages of construction, and so we need a garage that will accommodate an area for the restored cars, as well as a place where we can do the restoration work. So this requires that the garage has a separating wall, as well as separate garage door entries. The proposed garage will have 30 feet on the clean side for storing cars, and then 24 feet on the restoration side. That allows him enough room for a lift and tools to work and that type of stuff. If it's any smaller, it really isn't going to accommodate our needs. So we feel that complying with a 15-foot side yard setback would result in an unnecessary hardship for us. The hardship results from the following conditions that are specific to our property. None of these hardships have been self-created. Okay, so first is the size. As was mentioned, minimum lot size in this zoning area is 1 acre. Our lot is 0.94 acres, 0.945. And if you look at the subdivision plat for that area, it is one of the smallest lots out there. And we would be required to comply with the same zoning setbacks as people in the area who have 1 to 2 acre lots. For example, a full acre contains 43,560 square feet, while our property contains 41,164 square feet for a shortage of 2,396 square feet. Topography and slope. You saw that the east side of our property is sloped, and it has a natural waterway that runs water in the spring and during heavy rainfalls. And lot shape. Our lot was set at an angle, so the house is constructed straight to the street, but the lot is shaped like this, and that's why the west side of our property has that different width from 5 to 12 feet for our variance. If it wasn't slanted, we probably wouldn't need a variance. We also have a cul-de-sac at the end of our road. It has a 40-foot radius that also cuts into our property and takes additional acreage from the 25-foot setback. In the back, we have Northwestern Energy transformer and power supply, the utility line to the house, and then the drain field. So we feel that this is our only buildable place on the property. It was also suggested by the planning board to maybe push it back further into our property and pull it away from the side setback. But as you can see, that would really kind of mess up our backyard. It would move it closer to the neighbors. It would affect their view sheds. Our neighbor directly to the north doesn't want to look directly at the back of our garage. So we feel it's best placed where we are proposing it. And with all the required setbacks, it does add up to be a lot of acreage. 25 foot from the front, 20 from the rear, and 15 feet on each side. We lose about 14,335 square feet of buildable space, not including the cul-de-sac. That is the equivalent to about 120 foot by 120 foot building. The shop we are requesting to build will only take up 3,100 186 square feet, and it will take up less than 468 square feet of the 15-foot side yard setback. We feel that the benefits of this request is the proposed location works best for function, including roof drainage, alignment with the house, and access to the garage from the street. There's no utilities on the west side of the property in the proposed location. The proposed garage will be set further back than the existing garage, and architecture of the garage will match the house, the siding will be the same, and the landscaping will be completed to make it look nice. Our neighbors can continue to enjoy our open backyard spaces without a garage blocking their view shed. The requested variance would not harm public safety, nor would it be infringing on neighboring landowner rights. We have also shown, by the letters provided, I think we had 6 letters of support that were submitted. We do have support from our neighborhood. And in conclusion, I would just like to say, we do not believe that literal interpretation of the provisions of this chapter would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other tracts in the same district, just because of the hardships that we have gone over. And I do not believe that approving this variance would request or grant us any special privilege that other ones in the neighborhood are not allowed. Do you have anything you would like to add? You're welcome.
Mr. Chairman, Ms. Fleming, you, in your testimony, stated that you needed this variance to store and restore old vehicles. Where are you currently storing them? If you don't have room for them now?
Right, so we have,
All over.
yes, they are scattered all over. And I will add that not all of these are for us. We do have a 29 Model A that's for our grandson, and a 55 Chevy that's for our granddaughter, but they will probably also be stored at our house. So yes, right now we do have one stored at our friend's house across the street, and the other ones are very crammed around, and we've got one in a car hauler, and one's not even on the property yet. It's in Whitehall. So it would be nice to have a place to keep them all. Obviously, when they're restored, we don't want them outside on the street, and we really can't afford to pay to store them somewhere nice.
I understand. Thank you. Not at this time. Thank you.
I'll note for the record that I have 5 letters in support of this application. Brian Moe, 77 Green Acres Drive. George and Susan Doran at 207 Rapids Drive. And Steve Schmidt, I believe. And also Todd and Amanda Booth of 200 Green Acres Drive, and Christine Donaldson of 205 District Court. Would those be all that you can think of? Wouldn't be anybody in addition? I thought you mentioned you had 6. Well,
Maybe we did the math wrong. I think that's it. Thank you.
thank you.
Oh, I think,
There was one more, but we're good with that. That's great.
Well, they're all in support.
they are.
We may have people here to support also. So I'm going to ask them if they want to do that. Thank you. Is there
Thank
any
you.
resident who would care to speak in support of this application? Yes, sir. If you could come forward and identify yourself.
It's Gary Doran, not George. I'm on 207 Rabbit.
Oops. And I had written you the letter, but I just wanted to come support them in hopes that you will grant them that variance. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I think with criteria A and criteria C, I'm in agreement with the staff's findings. You know, I do recognize the importance of setbacks, and in complete agreement there. I guess what I keep going back to is criteria B and a minimum lot size being an acre. I do agree with the applicants. It's one of the smallest lots in the subdivision. And, you know, they do have a drainage, a topographical feature, geologic trait that supplements that. You know, previous two applications, you know, we were holding the applicants to a maximum height of 16 feet on a garage. My interpretation is, you know, the minimum lot size is 1.00 acres. As Mr. Pipnish stated, it would be a non-conforming lot due to, you know, it falling the 2,400 square feet short. So I guess I'm maybe not in agreement with the staff's findings and criteria B. I know that we're splitting hairs, and you know the grand scope of things is not a lot of acreage on the lot, but I just worry in the future, you know, if a minimum lot size is an acre and it you know is it 0.90 acres, you know what's close enough to the minimum lot size, I guess. So I guess my personal feeling is, you know, the lot size should be 1.00 acres. And since it's not, I do think there's a hardship there, you know, and the natural drainage might supplement that. That's my thoughts.
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion, we approve variance 23-8.
I'd second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Can we adjourn and talk?
Mr. Chairman, we do not have any other business.